Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming a fellow podcaster. Those of you in the horror community know Nasty Neal Jones, the host of Without Your Head Radio, and I'm having him on the show today to talk about, how he got into horror, the history of the show, how well it's doing, its sister show, Inside Your Head, and many other things. Neal is hella cool, an amazing guy. He's been through an awful lot, and it's going to be a pretty good conversation and stuff. I always love having a fellow podcaster on and talking shop. So, So here is my interview with Nasty Neal Jones. Hey, Neal.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Great. It's always nice to have a fellow podcaster on to talk shop. So, glad we're finally doing this.
Yeah. It's a long time in the making. I'm sorry. It's hard to deal with.
It's all good. I mean, I see your postings daily, and I commend you on your struggles, man. I do.
Thanks. Sorry I'm late.
It's okay. It's okay. So going back to the beginning, when did you first get into horror movies?
Since I was a little kid, as far back as I can remember. Let's see. This single mom, and I have an older brother who's 9 years older. Mm-hmm. So when she would take him to the drive-in, him and his friends, instead of like a babysitter, she'd also take me along. So the earliest movie I have a memory of is going to see Night of the Living Dead. I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and I remember I was upset when the car blows up. They start eating everybody, and the pickup. And my mom said, "Oh, don't worry, it's just a barbecue." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then ever since then, I was hooked on horror movies and movies in general, not just horror movies.
Yeah, that must have been an anniversary screening that you saw.
Yeah, it was. That was back in the '80s, so they would. This is before VHS and DVD, so those kind of movies would always be coming back to the theater.
Mm-hmm. Or they show up on late night horror shows.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you remember, so was Night of the Living Dead your first horror movie you ever saw?
Yeah, but the earliest one I have a memory of. Yeah.
Earliest one, yeah. My first one was The Shining. I was a year old, and my parents just scared the shit out of me with that movie. And I still had the tape it was on, but we taped it over for Back to the Future a few years later. But if you rewind it to the very beginning before the PG HBO graphics, you can see Shelley Duvall talking to the doctor, and it's pretty spooky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in the day, I remember, recording, because you get when you first get HBO and all those stations, and you're getting all these movies, and back then, like a VHS, would cost like $60. So you'd, get the blank tapes, record all the stuff, put them on the extended play, so you could record like 3 movies, and I used to have tons of them. But now it's just like, if you're going to watch them, it's going to be pretty poor quality, and you can watch almost all the stuff on all these streaming sites or get cheap DVDs. So.
I still collect VHSs. I go on eBay and I buy them because they have just a sentimental value to me.
Mm-hmm.
I got a huge collection, and yeah, I had a really huge collection before 5 years ago. Then I was homeless for a while, and I had to give away most of my VHSs. Some of them I was able to keep, but mostly 90% of them are gone. But now I'm building them up again with eBay. And the only thing that sucks about eBay, though, is that they can be $10 to $15 certain VHSs. Which
I tried to get rid of my VHS tapes just because they took up so much room, and I actually tried to donate them to the library, and they wouldn't even accept them. And then I tried to donate them to a nursing home, they wouldn't accept them. But if you want a bunch of them, just pay shipping. I'll send them to you.
That would be great, but why a nursing home?
Well, I used to work at one, and I just thought, like, maybe they would show the old people the movies, but they would only accept DVDs.
They only accept DVDs.
Yeah.
What are your favorite horror movies of all time?
All time. Depends what kind of mood I'm in, but growing up, specifically, I love the Universal monster movies. My favorite of those would be Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. I also love Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Invisible Man. I love them all, but those would be of those. I always loved Psycho, and for more modern, it's not really modern, to the 80s, would be Creepshow.
Yeah, I love Creepshow. Oh my God, that's the best.
I still have Creepshow here, actually, on my bookshelf here in the old clamshell for the VHS, because that's the first movie that my mom bought me on VHS.
Nice. Yeah, my favorites, and these are all the originals. I do not watch the remakes. I love Friday the 13th, Dawn of the Dead, Creepshow, this really obscure Charlie Band movie that I've met maybe 2 or 3 people on here that have actually seen it. The Alchemist. Have you heard of it?
I've not seen that.
Oh, it's a great little black magic horror movie from. It was shot in 81, I believe, but it didn't come out till 86. And like Charlie Band never talks about it because I guess it was a bad filming experience. But it's a nice little gem. And there's so many: Chopping Mall, Phantasm, Dream Warriors. God, so many horror movies I like.
Yeah, Phantasm would be one of mine too, and Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead is my favorite zombie movie.
Mine too. You have a favorite werewolf movie?
American Werewolf in London. It's weird because that's my favorite werewolf movie, but it's not my favorite werewolf. I don't think the werewolf looks particularly great.
Yeah.
Like a two-legged werewolf. But it's the best transformation scene. And it's, I like the dark comedy in the movie.
Yeah, that would be my second favorite one. My first one is The Howling.
I like The Howling, too. Oddly, they came out the same year.
Yeah, and Rick Baker was originally going to be doing The Howling, but then he got committed to American Werewolf in London, so he got his protege, Rob Bottin, to do The Howling. And he had been committed to American Werewolf in London for like 12 years before that, when John Landis had written the script back in like 68 or something, ironically.
I think Wolfen came out the same year, too.
Wolfen? Oh, yeah. Yeah, 81. All 3 of those came out in 81. Did you ever have a crush on any Scream Queens growing up?
I was really, I like Barbara Crampton, Linnea Quigley. It's probably the 2 top that I can think of. But yeah, Barbara Crampton probably the most.
Yeah. I told Barbara that, and Linnea. Oh my God, Linnea was a big one for me. I mean, I watched her movies late at night on USA Up All Night when I was a kid, and then she interviewed me for her documentary, and I was just like thinking to myself, oh my God, I used to have fantasies about this girl when I was 12. What's wrong with this picture? You know? Do you think that today's horror is just way too dark and kind of antiquated in terms of originality?
No, I know some people don't like modern. I like to always watch new stuff. I mean, I like old stuff too, obviously, but I like a lot of modern horror. And I like all range of movies. So I could be in the mood to watch something very silly and fun, maybe even like dumb, or it could be very serious, it could be really dark, it could be really gory. I kind of like it all. So, no, I like a lot of modern horror. I don't like every movie, but I wouldn't like every movie from any generation. But there's a lot of modern horror movies, modern horror movies that I dig.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a little too dark. I've only seen a handful of horror movies the last few years that I really consider to be a throwback to to the 80s. You know, I really loved Jackson Stewart's Beyond the Gates. To me, that was a true, like, 80s horror takeoff because it had like Raimi-esque humor in it, you know, and some funny situations. And that's what a lot of horror movies in the 80s had. It had some pretty funny dialogue and pretty funny situations, you know. And there was this one I saw called The Unwilling that had some humor in it too. And this other one, Slasher.com. So those three were like the ones I've seen the last few years that like have that kind of 80s vibe to it, you know. Although, I mean, I did like Happy Death Day. I haven't seen the second one yet. I want to go see the second one. Of course, the new It, and I'm looking forward to the next It. I think it's going to be fabulous. And what's that one? That I want to see that new Jordan Peele movie coming out too because I saw Get Out and I liked it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I think Terrifier. To me, it's a throwback slasher film. If the slasher films in the 80s weren't censored at all, so it's extremely graphic and gory, has the feel of a throwback slasher film.
Huh. I'll have to check that one out. I haven't seen that one yet.
This is one of my favorites of last year.
Mm-hmm. There's this one. I think it's out. I think it's been out or it's coming out. It's this one Felissa Rose did about this Christmas sweater that's like haunted or something. Have you heard about that?
I have a soft spot for no. I know Sean Whalen was maybe the same movie, but he did a ugly Christmas sweater movie. It's a horror movie. Maybe they're both in it. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe though. I think he's worked with her a couple times.
Yeah, they're buddies in real life.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a soft spot for Christmas horror movies. I tend to like most of them, even like really horrible ones like Elves or some of the better ones. But I always kind of dig them. Pretty much all of them.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of Christmas horror movies. My favorites are like Silent Night, Deadly Night, Black Christmas, To All a Good Night, Christmas Evil, stuff like that.
Yeah, they're all very good.
Yeah, they had a list of Go ahead.
Hey, you said Silent Night, Deadly Night, but that's a pretty dark movie.
Yeah. It is pretty dark, but like
not all the classic ones we grew up with are lighthearted. A lot of them are pretty dark.
Yeah, I mean I do like Yeah, I mean I do like I do like the dark stuff, but like I just think that like there's humor lacking in most horror movies nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, some of them are, for me, are too far silly.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're too much in on the joke, it takes away the charm. Like if you meant to put out like a good movie, and you put heart into it, but there's some comedy there that maybe wasn't intentional. I think that's more charming than purposely trying to put out a schlocky movie.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So how did Without Your Head first come about?
All right. Well, the first we were doing In Your Head, which was a wrestling podcast, actually predating even the term podcast, 2005 internet radio. Mm-hmm. That October, we decided to do a Halloween special because myself and John Howard, who I do In Your Head with, we're also not only wrestling fans but horror movie fans, and so we did it. Originally, it was just going to be a one-off Halloween special. It was me, John, my brother Troy, and Ron Hex, who did our original theme song. And we had a lot of fun. So 2006, we decided to start doing the show as a totally separate show with horror guests. And it just really went from there. It was more sporadic in the early days. It was kind of like when I find a guest, we do the show. It wasn't weekly. And then, I don't know, in 2011, we started doing the show weekly and live every week, and it's been live weekly ever since then.
Wow. And what year was this?
The very first show was 2005, but 2006 it became its own show. And the reason why it's called Without Your Head, because we're doing In Your Head, and we're like, what should we call this Halloween special? And my friend Ron says, well, let's just call it Without Your Head. And it's just a joke off In Your Head, and put the name stuck.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, because I don't even think, like you said, I don't think that the term podcast was even invented yet. So it was just radio to you, right?
Yeah, it was internet radio, and back then, not so much horror, because honestly, it was us and there was one other one, I forget the name, but it's popular. Dead Pit Radio started the same year. They don't do their show anymore, so Without Your Head is the longest running active horror podcast. So when we started the wrestling one, In Your Head, there was a collection of like established shows that were on terrestrial radio, regular radio, but then also would stream online, and like they would look down on us, or like they'd be really mad because they were like, oh, these people don't have degrees and journalism and all this stuff. And so it was a really different world. And I remember one of our listeners, Slarty Barfest, he was like, you guys should get on this new thing called podcast. It was like, I think it was around 2006, maybe 2007, around there. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know what that is. But he's like, it's going to be the next big thing. And obviously it was.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I first became aware of you guys 3 years ago when I first got back into the horror scene after being out of it for nearly a decade. And it seems like since I've discovered you guys have gotten more and more successful and in demand for interviews more now than ever, you know.
Yeah, last year it's really blown up. Now we even get a lot of people asking to come on, which is very awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's great when that happens. I mean, I've had people like message me and tell me that they can get this person on or that person on or something, you know. And there's this one guy who's like a manager in Hollywood. I was actually warned to avoid him because he gave this one podcaster I know, you know, all these guests, and then like he wanted money after saying that he wasn't going to charge for it, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had too many people ask for money, but it has happened over the years.
I've only had one person ask for money, and that was the girl who played Pippi Longstocking in 1988, Tammy Aaron. She's like, she like agrees to do the interview, then she flakes on me, and then I'm like waiting for her for like weeks, and then she like sends me a message out of the blue saying you have to pay me $400 for this interview. I'm like, you are out of your fucking mind, you know? Yeah. So she didn't like that response, so she blocked me. Go ahead.
I think for Without Your Head, I think the only person who asked for money was David Prowse, who played Darth Vader.
That's not.
It wasn't he personally; it was his agent. So you don't know if it's there. You know, if you could go directly to him, he might not have cared. But when you go through agents and these different people like that, you never know. I mean, some of them are great, and some of them are not so great. But it all depends. I'd rather just deal directly with the person.
Me too. Yeah, I've done that more often than the manager, but I've actually dealt with some pretty cool managers and some who have offered me to interview some of their other clients. So that's good, you know. But I've been very lucky. I haven't been charged other than, you know, Pippi Longstocking. But who was your first guest?
Without Your Head?
Yeah.
Who was the first guest? Today was the first guest. It was a pretty big first guest to have.
Who?
Sid Haig.
Oh, Sid Haig. Yeah. Yeah, he's been in so many. He's been in all the Rob Zombie movies.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big first guest.
Yeah, so it was cool because I was a little nervous for that being the first guest, but we called him up and he was just like watching House, I believe, the TV show, and he's just a very down to earth cool guy, and did very well.
Mm-hmm. How many interviews overall have you done?
Without your head, I'm not positive, to be honest. I don't know. It's been a lot, hundreds, and then also later hundreds on in here. It's been a lot. I'm not positive. I should probably track of that, but I don't know offhand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are 416 today for me.
Okay.
And I'll be celebrating 2 years in May, and I just can't believe how blessed I've been just doing this. I didn't think I was going to do it past 10 episodes, to be honest with you, but I've kept going.
That's very good. Very good. I hope you have a good time doing it.
Oh yeah, I do. I mean, there are days when I get really frustrated and I just want to quit because I had a bad interview or something like that. But for the most part, it's just been extraordinary, and I feel like I'm starting to get. I don't mean to sound like I'm tooting my own horn or anything. I feel like I'm starting to get, at least somewhat, prominent, in the podcasting industry of the way I've been treated by so many people now,
Mm-hmm.
But who's been your favorite interviews that you've done?
Let me think about this. It was really awesome to have Ben Chapman on. He played the creature from the Black Lagoon on the land scenes in 1954.
Mm-hmm.
See, that was a really great interview. No, it was a good interview, but it was, it was wild to talk to somebody that was in a Universal monster movie. And he was really sick at the time. He passed away not that long after that.
Oh.
And I remember it was a little while to get him on because he was having health problems, and he was on an oxygen tank. And so when we called him, you could tell he was not in good health. And I was like, well, we can do this another time. And he was just like, no, let's do this before I croak. And he said that in a way, though, that, he was not croaking, but it was also serious. And so then when we started recording, he, really perked up. And, yeah, it was a really special one. Angus Scrim, was a really great interview. And he was another one that was, passed away not long after we did the interview. And he had a really, it's kind of like, I think if he explained it, it might sound depressing because he knew he was dying.
Yeah.
But he had such a great attitude about it. He said he did everything he always wanted to do, and he was at peace, with his life. And to me, it was more of an uplifting interview. And to think, if everyone could have, that same attitude when they know their time's up, you'd be lucky. So those are two. There's a lot of ones I really liked. I'd have to go through them, but those are two that stand out to me.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to gravitate towards the scream queens and horror actresses who love politically incorrect humor and stuff, whether it's Barbie Wilde or Leslie Donaldson or Kathleen Kinmont or Tuesday Night or Linnea Quigley, just girls that I can joke with, And there's a couple I've had that, I just was so amazed I was able to get. Like the other day I interviewed Cousin Jerry from The Facts of Life, and that was a pretty good interview. It was a dream interview and stuff. Did you ever interview somebody that you were really looking forward to, and then when you did, they kind of let you down?
Oh, definitely. There was one I almost actually I stopped doing the show for a little while because it was oh my god, what's his name? He was in the Munsters. He played Eddie Munster.
Butch Patrick.
Butch Patrick, yeah. So I asked him to come on, and he was like, yeah, it was when he had a book coming out. And so I actually went and I watched both seasons of the Munsters, all episodes, took a bunch of notes. I was really looking forward to it. And then he came on, and he said he only wanted to be on 5 minutes. And every question I asked, he just would go, yep.
Yep.
Nope. And it was awful. It's very, very, very depressing. And it was like I spent a lot of time preparing for it, and it was really just enough to interview.
Yeah, that was my interview with him too, except he said 20 minutes. And yeah, he was a little curmudgeon, and he just gave me short answers. But something really funny happened, right? Like, okay, the horror hostess, Ivona Cadaver, he used to be on her show a lot. And I had her coming on, and she told me, she said, Butch really likes you. And I was like, what? he likes me? She's like, yeah. She said, you're a good interviewer. And I was like, wow, I thought he didn't like me because he was giving me all these short answers and stuff.
Yeah, maybe that's just the way he is. I don't know. I have not heard other interviews with him, so
yeah,
maybe they're all like that.
Yeah, that was weird.
It's not a good interview. Yeah.
Yeah, but recently I was let down. I tried to interview Patty Mullen, who played Frankenhooker, and she took control of the interview about a minute in, and then she did not like the fact that I was a Playboy guy instead of a Penthouse guy, because she used to be in Penthouse, so she hung up on me, after 3 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, then a couple weeks later, I got James Lorenz, the star of Frankenhooker, on and stuff. He didn't really give me any closure. He just told me I was out of line with her, and that was that. But I had a good interview with him overall. But,
all right.
Yeah, sometimes you never know, It's one of the unfortunate parts about this.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Not a horror movie interview, but the Iron Sheik, I had him on in 2005, I think. Maybe it was 2006, but it was a year or two before he was on Howard Stern, and really was people really started talking about him. And I literally asked one question, and he blew up and screamed at me for like a minute, and then hung up.
Mm-hmm.
And what's even weird about it is, so we called him up. And I kept getting like this young guy. I still have no idea who he was, but he kept saying, Iron Sheik will be on, blah blah blah. And so it was a live show, so it built up for like 2 hours or maybe even 3 hours before we finally got Iron Sheik on the line. And then it's literally like 5 minutes. It's him just, I'm Jack on the wrestling show, so it's him going, Mr. the Jack is an intelligent man, the Boston Garden. And then I finally asked a question, and he went crazy and hung up. And at the time, I was like, oh, God. But at the time, it was our most hits ever on the website. Like, we talked about it on all these wrestling sites, and people cut out the clips and played it everywhere. And
yeah.
Sometimes people even still tell me that's their favorite interview of mine, which I never know really how to take, because it's literally 5 minutes, and I ask one question, and the guy just freaks out. So I don't know why. But I guess it's a funny listen.
Yeah. I'm not much of a sports guy, but I heard Sergeant Slaughter is a good interview.
He's guy. I interviewed him in a Mad Monster video. That was fun. I was gonna do but I couldn't because I just had surgery and I was recovering, so I couldn't make it. But I was gonna do the panel with Sergeant Slaughter and the Iron Sheik and Mad Monster in Charlotte last month.
Yeah. Is there anybody you really want to interview that you haven't yet?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Robert Englund would be great.
Yeah, of course.
Trying to think. Well, I mean, geez. I think of somebody like maybe I grew up watching. It's not been on the show yet. I'd have to think about that. But, yeah, I mean, it's always fun to interview people that meant something to me when I was a kid, and even if it's not necessarily a big name, but somebody who was in something that I watched, as a kid, and then you get to talk to.
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of the people I've had on have been that way from me. Have you interviewed Diane Franklin?
No.
Yeah, she was my very first guest. She's been on overall 5 times. She's a great interview. You could talk to her about some of the horror stuff she did, like Amityville and Terror Vision. She's a great guest. But my four that I would love to interview in terms of horror are Barbara Crampton, Felissa Rose, Amanda Wiss, and Adrienne Barbeau. And I know you've had the honor of interviewing those four, but I haven't yet for various reasons and stuff. But I've been lucky with all the horror people I have gotten. And I've interviewed like super obscure people that like don't even do podcast interviews, and people look at it and go, wow, I forgot about that person, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's always fun.
I've interviewed a lot of Canadian horror people that like are super obscure and stuff, like Vlasta Verona, who's in, you know, Shivers and Rabid, the David Cronenberg horror movies and stuff.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So how much longer do you see yourself doing without your head?
Oh, I think I'll do it till let's say forever, but maybe forever. I really enjoy doing it, or else I wouldn't do it. And so I don't foresee myself stopping or anything. You know, do the show. I've been brought to conventions to host moderate panels. Recently, I've been instead of the convention so much, started doing more of the film festivals. I think I fit in better on those.
Yeah.
And I just started doing those last year, and that's been a really good time. I'll be going to Boston Underground Film Festival again next week. Yeah,
Nice.
I'll be doing some interviews there, and so I have no intention of stopping.
Wow. Is there anything else in the horror industry that you would like to do besides podcasting?
Yeah, well, last year I did a couple small parts in movies. I've got some coming up. So, and a lot of people have suggested, you know, like I make a movie or something. So I'd like to. I know a lot of people in Boston who are, you know, independent movie makers and you know, do a lot of networking at the festival. So I'm currently writing a script for a short I would like to do instead of doing a feature. See how that goes, and mostly when I spend a lot of money, and see how that goes, and if I would like to do more of anything like that.
That's great. Yeah, I write horror movies too. I'm on that trajectory, and I'm going to be filming a pilot for my own horror movie show in May, which I'm excited about. That's like my major dream, to be a horror host. Out there in Massachusetts, you guys have Penny Dreadful the 13th.
What's that? I'm not sure what it is. I'm sorry.
She's a horror host out there. She's like a witch. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's really good. I've had her on the podcast. She's a good interview, really nice. And she started her show on cable access in Boston, and within months it was so successful it spread out throughout the entire New England seaboard. I mean, it was just yeah, it was huge right out of the gate. And she's very humble and very nice about it and stuff. And yeah, she's another guest I'd recommend. By the way, I was curious, have you heard any episodes of Mama Creepy's podcast?
No, I have not. I have no intention to either.
I have. It's a snooze fest. And she had Adrienne Barbeau on, and she's like, I met you before. I used to be on another show which shall remain nameless. Yeah. So, do you have any good guests on this week?
Well, tonight, when we're taping this is Thursday. I'm not sure when this will be up, but tonight we're gonna have Sophia Cacciola and Michael Epstein, who made the movie Clickbait, which is doing the premiere next week at Boston Underground Film Festival, and also did one of the trivets a few years ago. I've had him on the show several times and met him. Great people, so that'd be fun. And Jim McDonough will also be on. So for the next few weeks is primarily going to be about Boston Underground Film Festival.
Nice. Well, Neal, I thank you so much for coming on today. I'm glad that we finally got to do this. And And it seems like to me that you're on the road to stardom. I couldn't think of a better word, stardom. You know.
Oh, I appreciate that. I had a good time, and thank you for asking me for coming on.
Absolutely. And I'll see you on Facebook, and I'll continue listening, and I'll continue to admire how courageous and awesome you are.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And continued success, and most importantly, have a good time during the show.
Mm-hmm. Yes, always have a good time. Well, Neal, you have yourself a good night over there.
Thank you. Have a good time. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. Neal Jones. Ain't he a cool dude? Thank you so much, Neal. You are just the most awesomeness guy, and you're having fun doing this show, and you're going to continue to do so for a very long time. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes!